Doc, are you telling me it's 8:25? Today, we're going to be looking at a different movie. This movie that we're going to be looking at today is named Light Years, and it's an animated film from the 80s, 1988. The movie Light Years was released in America. Its original title, Gandahar. Miramax Films, as we see. We pause that for a moment. The truth that we find in film, in media, I don't think anybody's really quite nailed it on the head yet, but they have to tell us if that resonates. And if you have more insight, down in the comments, I'd certainly love to hear your opinions. I do thank you for being here and joining me, Eddie O, to look at this movie and explore the movie Light Years, originally known as Gandahar, a French animated film with a certain style and definitely some meaning. We have artists such as Ralph Bakshi in the 70s. He did the Lord of the Rings animation. Fritz the Cat. Fire and Ice was a very popular one. But somehow, Light Years really seemed to fly beneath the radar. Miramax Films here. We have the M. We have not just an M, we have two M's. Mount Meru. We see the blue energy around it. And the shape of it itself. The M itself is a 3, is a W, is an M, is an E. The 3, 33 nautical French miles around Mount Meru and the mountain range that up at the Northlands. Miramax Films. So, as we see. Take and read this here for us by Isaac Asimov. How appropriate. Isaac Asimov, known for his quote in the laws of robotics, how would these people predict the future? How would they know and have such insight with storytelling? They're telling the story of the future by telling the story of the past. It's all the same story. We speak in time and mind, which do not easily yield to categories. We separate past and future and find that time is an amalgam of both. We separate good and evil and find that mind is an amalgam of both. To understand, we must grasp the whole. Isaac Asimov. This film was based on a book that was written maybe 15 years prior. And the story starts off in Gandahar, where it's peaceful, kind, joyous culture, living a good life. Very organic, plant-based, bountiful, in tune with nature. Remember the movie The Dark Crystal and the birds that could see and communicate that image. We have those birds here again. We have quite the cast in this movie. We have Christopher Plummer. If you know who Christopher Plummer is, he is the voice of the character Metamorphosis in this film, Glenn Close. Now, one of these names here really stood out to me, and that is the first one of the duo of Las Vegas that perform at the Penn and Teller Theater, and that is Penn Jillette. a Frenchman himself. I prefer his partner Teller, as I think most of us would. But we do have some notable figures in alchemy and magic, ritual, performance, and as we see these actors again and again. How many movies have they really been in? So to say. So to say. The music of this film is very nice. I'm not going to play anybody because YouTube will definitely strike for copyright infringement. Created by Rene Laloux. The two L's, the two pillars again. Rene, not the writer of the book. The book was written by a different man himself. In the comments, you can find that. Thank you for signing up and watching this presentation with us. Now, here is the hub of the leaders of Gandahar. What do we see on this man's symbol on his shirt? As they notice some of their life forms are perishing, and they can't figure out really why, but they know that they're being pursued and eliminated. This guy, very mindful gentleman that he is going to meditate on it. He looks like he's been enjoying a quiet life. This architecture and combination of organic, biological nature. Here we are. They send off our hero, our protagonist in the story, Sylvain. It's right like Sylvania. And he travels off into a distant land, traveling over the deserts and the four lands, the four rivers, on his mode of transportation, which is alive. It is an organic creature. This is an important image right here. If anybody in the comments knows this one, you get an EdTalk point for this one. The three lights. The three lights in the mouth of Kronos. As he will eat, the reference comes up often for the three lights. The triple moon, the triple sun rather, in the Neverending Story, not Neverending Story, the Dark Crystal, silly me. During the Dark Crystal, in the alignment, we see this in a Stephen King film as well. Very prevalently in the original film adaptation of It. And there's a scene down in the sewers, the tunnels, where it opens its mouth. Don't look in the deadlights, right? And one of the bully kids, one of the three of them, looks into the deadlights, as does one of our heroes at the end of the film. And they get sucked in. And they get sucked in. Just like the opening, our verse. I digress. But those three lights do symbolize Kronos, I believe, right? So as he's journeying, we find a race of mutants. What does this guy look like, right? Some of our cryptid creatures. Oh, mine don't fail me now. Blimmy, that's it. He's a Blimmy, right? And now with these mutations, this race has been ostracized from the Gandahars, who are, pretty good looking. And where do they live? They live out in the outskirts in the post-apocalyptic land here, in a tunnel system. Who knew? So they find our hero Sylvain in the film here, Light Years, 1988, and they take him in. The Morlock family, right? The Morlocks in the X-Men, the Underground. Are the ant people similar to this? Do the ant people in Hopi tradition feel ashamed? Were they cast out? Are they known by the powers that be that they exist, but cast out? Now, they developed psychic powers. And this is their leader, who is voiced by the one and only Penn Jillette. And Sylvain, our hero, assumes that these individuals are the enemy. And he is here, and he said, I'm going to get you. And he said, we are not your enemy. You from Gandahar. We too are from Gandahar. We are also from Gandahar. And it turns out that there was experimentation, genetic manipulation, and then they were outcasts. So they were created by that hero race in the beginning of the film. Off to find the real culprit, they send him with their greatest warrior, Boca, the Lancelot, to travel through this maze to find the true threat known as metamorphosis. Our friend here tells about the prophecy of light years. In 1,000 years, Gandahar will be destroyed. 1,000 years ago, Gandahar will be saved. And that is the paradox that we're going to be looking at and absorbing throughout this slideshow. In 1,000 years, Gandahar will be destroyed. 1,000 years ago, Gandahar will be saved. And he and his tunnel-dwelling family don't know really what to make of it either. But they do discover what the threat is. It is the men of metal. Sleek, uniform, dangerous. These men of metal are going through the countryside and annihilating the souls that walk this realm, the surface dwellers. And Sylvain gets hit by one of the men of metal. And he sees others prior, and they turn to stone, frozen in time. I often think of the statues that I look at in architecture and wonder if they're actually individuals. Sometimes you wonder. His buddy says, peace out, bro. Going back to my crew. And he is out. He is out. So what happens now? Sylvain is turned to stone and captured by the men of metal. And he's placed in an egg with somebody else. Not so bad. Things turn pretty quick. An immediate affection towards Sylvain. This young fawn finds him and feels this is destiny, that they have been put in this situation. Trying to make their way out and escape, being the hero on a mission to find the true threat, Metamorphosis, who he believes now must be aligned with these men of metal. One of nature's creations finds the egg-like structures that the men of metal are capturing individuals in and thinks it's one of her own eggs. So in a quick turn of events and fortune and storytelling and plot, our heroes escape the clutches of capture, now joined with affection, with a little help from a dragon, perhaps? These men of metal are not invincible, but man, do they come in numbers. So they continue along. Losing soldiers, doesn't matter. They're all the voice of one, these men of metal. Look at this architecture in the background. Do we see some meltology? Perhaps. Perhaps. As they take these individual souls, turn it to stone, they bring them to this door. What do we see? Right? That's a star fort. How great is this? We see a geometrically precise foundation, or in other words, a star fort. Fantastic. A point of resonance with a door that glows there. And this is the door of time. These metal take these eggs full of these individuals and pass them through the door of time. These eggs go in, more men of metal come out. The door of time. Purpose, driven, code, a belief, a system of truth that exists of these men of metal. And they're growing in numbers. Thanks again for joining me here, friend Eddie O. Keep tapping that screen. Like, share, subscribe. And please do me one favor, follow my YouTube channel. It's in my link tree. A voice of one of these men of metal speaks to the crowd and says, things are going great. And we're going to keep doing this. And that they do. And they praise the one known as the metamorphosis. We see the three lights again. The omen. There are omens. There are signs. This looks like plasma to me. It looks like red plasma. As they snuck on the boat, here's what happened to the metal. They followed them as they travel out to sea to find metamorphosis. This is metamorphosis, organic, a brain, hemispheres. We see a mycelium. And these men of metal don't necessarily look like they are structured from it, but they do look to the metamorphosis for their leadership and their cause. Sylvain and his fawn are absorbed into metamorphosis and integrated biologically through a fractal cell system. They travel deep within these tubes, tunnels, and they communicate with the metamorphosis as they are being observed by this balanced hemispherical bi-bowl energy system. It senses their connection as humans, yet it as itself, organic, yet created. Metamorphosis explains to Sylvan that he is not the ruler of the men of metal, but they do believe that he is their god. So he will let them do as such they will. For metamorphosis is timeless, and metamorphosis will live forever. And he sends Sylvain and his fawn back on a type of plasmoid phantazoid creature generated. Do we have some work on homunculus here? These people in Gandahar ain't so great. I don't care how big your wings are and the big your head. And this guy with his Ohm logo on his shirt, eating too many lobster rolls. He's like, look here. So their mutation, their experiments created the line of mutants, the Morlock, the people that live in the tunnel systems, and they also, looking back in their history records, created metamorphosis themselves. They created metamorphosis, and it started to grow and create its own sovereign mind. It's artificial intelligence of metamorphosis. They couldn't contain it, so they sent it out in the middle of the Nether Sea and placed it there where it remained until now. These men of metal come and attack the main headquarters of Gandahar. They're going to take out all these individuals. Gandahar fights back with what they can. So the animal, they're no match for the technology. For this technology is not from this time. This technology of the metametal is from 1,000 years in the future. Traveling through the time door brings them 1,000 years into the future, and 1,000 years back if they come back. As metamorphosis is observed by them, they try to decide what to do. And they fear they cannot defeat this. It is part of their story now. And just unfortunate that they couldn't right the wrongs that they had done through science and trying to have progress, as we still see the end of the world. These three lights are the end of the world, the mouth of Kronos, as he feeds on the cattle, on the crickets, on the feed. Sylvain must talk again, figure out, and try and reason with Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is intelligent. He can understand that he cannot destroy these people and their lives for these men of metal that are not. Right? See this struggle. He re-enters Metamorphosis and pleads with him to stop. Metamorphosis laughs arrogantly, as timeless as Metamorphosis is. Metamorphosis talks of the time door. There's only one way we can do this. In 1,000 years, Metamorphosis sends the men of metal back to this timeline. They're coming from 1,000 years in the future to harvest the bodies and souls, to bring back to 1,000 years in the future, 1,000 years from now. And Metamorphosis, being sovereign and wise, says he cannot live forever, and he needs to end his existence as well for the story to not fall one way or the other. And he tells Sylvain, I'm going to put you to sleep for 1,000 years, Sylvain. 1,000 years you shall sleep, and when you wake up, you will be as strong, as healthy as you feel today. And then you can come to me, Metamorphosis, and end my existence. But why not now? Why wouldn't I destroy you now? He wants to live. He wants to experience the experience for 1,000 years, leading up to the men of metal being sent back 1,000 years to the current time. Down to the bottom of the sea he shall sleep, a great sleep until he is needed again. King Arthur took a great sleep. Clearly defeated the noble leaders of the community. Sylvain's girlfriend, who's just there now, right, just part of the crew. They see the onslaught coming, more than they've seen yet, these men of metal. Perfectly aligned, higher technology, coming equipped, tanks, barrages. Don't forget about our mutated friends coming from the tunnel systems, and they will fight too. They remind themselves that they are also Gandaharian. They are from Gandahar, although different and ostracized and sent away. They are still Gandahar. They will fight for the right. We know these guys. We talked about a little bit of psychic powers, and they get together. They start chanting, and their eyes start glowing. All of a sudden, we get some productivity in the atmosphere. Electromagnetism, perhaps. And the clouds go dark over our men of metal. a great storm starts to attack the metal. There we are. And the tunnel dwellers have created a resonance, a frequency together in a group setting of their alignment and called upon a storm. Blue, plasma, red on the metal, perhaps red ionized gases of different colors. The blue light, the blue bird of happiness, right? This zaps the shit out of them. Pretty good, pretty good. Down many of them go. And they get tired. We do see, look at the water underneath. This blue fountain of youth, perhaps. It's energy center where they have found domicile. Hey, pretty good. Took down a lot of these guys and, these tunnel systems, like tubes of an organ, perhaps, right? Resonance and frequency. It's not good, though. The civil leaders say we got to go. They're not going to make it. They got these big crabs next to the house, but even these big crab guys, they're no match for these metal. The technology, they're from 1,000 years in the future. 1,000 years. They do some moves, jumping around. Hey guys, these have clothes. Yeah. It's not looking good. An endless onslaught. It's just countless. They can do their last farewell. So they decide to leave. They decide to leave. Birds come to the head of their office and fly it away, right? Cool. So they'll go hide. That are responsible. The ones that are responsible for this whole engagement. And these guys, our friends here, are left behind. They're just like, what? You guys are leaving, huh? We'll just live here now. Our friends, the mutants, the mutated, our Blimmy leadership, right? Blimmies and the touching soul and the remains of the war, which will still continue. They will still have to be in that world, but they get some technology and they're adaptable, very adaptable. So as these cowards run away again, in the movie Life Force Gandahar, 1,000 years have passed. Sylvain wakes up, and who's there? These guys are still rocking and rolling 1,000 years later. And he explains again the prophecy that Gandahar will be destroyed in 1,000 years. Gandahar will be saved 1,000 years ago. In 1,000 years from when the prophecy was stated is when the men of metal were sent back 1,000 years to destroy Gandahar. We start to open the paradox. We just observe the paradox. It will naturally try to want to resolve itself. Now 1,000 years later, when Gandahar is destroyed, right? But it's not destroyed now. It was destroyed 1,000 years ago from 1,000 years in the future. And they're still going in here. But look at the landscape. Different now. The once organic has turned to structure, metal, and buildings. Yes, life support system for metamorphosis now. This is all metamorphosis, no longer the organic brain. This system has aged and is susceptible to the elements, so to say. Now these bodies that are being taken from 1,000 years ago, we find out really what they were for. They weren't replacing and turning into the metametal. No, they were the organic tissue for the failing metamorphosis. waste, take, feeding. Yeah, put a stop to this. Big fear Sylvain has. Now what if he refuses? Metamorphosis refuses to go in peace. So this cool psychic guy charges up this piece of obsidian and hands it to Sylvan. And I think he's doing scrying, right? Some of my psychic friends in the chat. Hey guys. And he sees the message. And the message is from Metamorphosis. And he wants to live forever now. At this point, once 1,000 years ago, he said, I must be destroyed in 1,000 years. It'll be obvious time. So they sneak in and they sneak in the encampment. This imprisonment with bodies waited to be sacrificed for the organic. Botox for our antagonist. Our friends, now stronger, integrated with the technology. They've done a great job surviving and camping. They've utilized the balance. So now, while they have to charge these metal, they take all their heads and they stash them and they come up with the plans so they can get to metamorphosis. Right? So let's focus on the paradox as we're getting close to the end of the movie. He had to go 1,000 years into the future when Gandahar is destroyed in 1,000 years. Because in 1,000 years, right now where he is the decision being made to go back 1,000 years in time to be able to obliterate the civilization that was here 1,000 years ago. For if that hadn't happened 1,000 years ago, the civilization that would live here now would be much different now, wouldn't it? It would be more advanced. It wouldn't be as stifled. Now running on this life support system are chanting homeboys here, get their lights on, and they again go and create the powers and the gift. All of this structure was once organic. And it forms, and it forms, and it forms. Conforms. But these guys ain't having it. They say, let's go. Hey, is there a magnet? And we see what looks like plasma. Plasma, plasma, plasma. The way plasma acts, and just the way it acts, and the way plasma shapes itself. You can see a picture right there almost like a squatting man, right? The squatting man, or the shape of plasma that it takes. Kind of like us. You know, we're a shape of life. Life looks like us. Now, Sylvain committed to ending this all before it begins. And that would be the time ending it before it begins, right? Just like Back to the Future. Gotta get back in the almanac. Struggling, fighting. In 1988, as this movie wraps up, Sylvain does inject what's left of this organic creature. Omnipotent, all-knowing metamorphosis. And all it's left to do is get back in that time door and be able to go back 1,000 years. But now, since he has destroyed metamorphosis, right? He does not send the orders to send the metal back 1,000 years. So as he returns 1,000 years ago, this timeline never happened. And that's the paradox, to travel into the future to change the past. Travel to the future to change the past. Can we change the past? Can we change the future? Of course. Of course. All right now, though. Right now is the only time for everything, right? And once the time door is no longer, it's just a door. And life goes on. Earth angel, would you be mine? I wanna love you till the end of time. Earth angel, I'm just a fool in love with you. Oh, Earth angel. Thank you guys very much for joining me on this look at Light Years. Great movie, and it has definitely seemed to have gone under the radar opposed to some other Ralph Bakshi films, Fire and Ice. But there's definitely meaning in the story. It's all the same story, right? So if something resonated with you and you felt a piece of information come to you, please share. This video will be up on YouTube within an hour or two. Get it edited down a little bit. So please go on to YouTube and find it in the link tree and follow that. I would certainly appreciate following the YouTube channel. It does help a lot. And it's free. It only takes you a second, but it really does help me a lot. Put a lot of work into all of this, so I appreciate you. I love you guys. A lot of fun, and don't forget to check out Light Years. Gotta get back in time. Bow, 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 bow. You telling me it's 8:25? All right, bye, guys. Thank you so much.